Welcome to Degens on the Block, a podcast for NFTs, Web3, crypto, and a lot of random topics. To my left here, Manuel, David, Todd, myself, Glenn, and we're going to launch into the first topic. The first topic is going to be the ripple effects of weather forecasting. This one came up because we had a massive storm, which was
supposedly.
Yes, which was named Snowmageddon by someone, I don't know, and it came in a little bit lackluster.
A lot lackluster,
to say the least. Yes.
So,
what kind of effects, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess all the different effects of poor forecasting. Although I don't think it was that poor forecasting. I think they said we're going to get a smaller amount followed by a larger amount over 2 days, which we kind of did. We just didn't hit that,
threshold,
2 feet or something, or
22 inches.
Yeah.
I think we were also missing too the wind effect of having that alleged snow load coming down at the same time, which would have given those blizzard conditions. Because on the metro, we certainly didn't see hardly any times where that was significant. I mean, a day or two before that, we had a quick burst for like an hour or something like that, where we got about like 2.5 inches or so. That, to me, seemed way worse in terms of visibility or anything else than anything we got during
Wind
those
was
last 2
whipping.
days.
I mean, it was blowing hard.
But there wasn't all the snow coming with it that you couldn't see through the,
No, and we didn't
all
have
this-
extreme temps like today. Today was a lot colder. We woke up, it was -7 this morning, and that was chilly. So I don't know.
I don't know. My take is maybe not super appreciated by a lot of people, especially not my wife. And that's how this topic came up. And we do live in Minnesota. So this is being brought to you from the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And when you live in Minnesota, my argument is you have to be prepared for the weather at all times. I think although I understand the reason to try to keep people safe, keep the kids safe, especially, if they're waiting for a bus and there's big snow drifts and whatnot, but to preemptively close down the whole school system, essentially, sending many workers and employers in chaos where they have to figure out how they take care of their kids. Now, the older kids, not a big deal, but the younger kids, it's a big deal. And daycare, especially. So you're leaving all these businesses without their crucial employees. And essentially what I had to do was shut down a whole day, a day and a half of my practice, which that's a pretty big hit to my bottom line. And I thought that the politicians could have had a little more guts and waited to see how things kind of panned out, especially waited after that first bit of snow. They could have waited because they knew it wasn't going to be as bad, that first wave. Right. The second wave was going to be supposedly the worst. And I just think they kind of caved to the pressure and they made a decision way too early, and it affected businesses like mine. So that's why I'm pissed about it. And I don't think that I think we need to be more thoughtful.
Well, and just to back that up, right? You had stores that were still open. You had grocery stores that were still open. You had department stores that were still open. You had ice arenas. I mean, the hockey.
Everything was still open.
Hockey never stopped, right?
Yeah.
They're closing down schools, but yet you have kids that are, 6 years old going to go play hockey. And it's supposed to be the height of the storm and this and that. I didn't see it. Better to be safe than sorry, sure. But I think there should have been some kind of threshold where then they should have called it versus just calling it 2 days before and just be like, you know what, we're just going to do it right now. And I think they do that because now they have something to fall back on, which is this e-learning, right? It's the software you plug in. You can learn from home. We did it through COVID. I think it's just they're making it easier for them to make that decision because they think that they have it kind of figured out in the background, like this is what we're going to do instead.
But part of the social good of public schools is, and maybe this is not a popular opinion, is to take care of the children while the parents are at work. I mean, I think that's part of the public good of public schools. Yeah. And to make that call early was irresponsible. And Yes, they have a backup now, and now it's just an excuse to say, well, okay, it's e-learning.
No, right. I agree
know?
with you. And also, you're right. It's like, what do the parents do? If the parents are both working, well, now, okay, one of you has to stay home or one of you has to pay attention to the kids, feed them, do whatever you have to do. Make sure that they're doing their schoolwork, right? I mean, that alone is a chore. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about people missing out.
You know, it's a tough business that the weather forecasters are in because, you know, sometimes, you know, you look at it and you don't give them much empathy because, you know, it's like, hey, if you're more than 50% accurate, you're really one of the good ones. You know, it's like, come
Well,
on.
think about the technology that we have now to predict the weather.
And that's what I was going to go to. And so now with all these models that they have, because all these decisions are based on, they have like about 8 or 9 different models. And they run the models to see which one comes up with. And if they all say to something, that means that statistically, based on what they knew at that time, that this was the right call. The problem with it is one of the things that you mentioned, you know, before too, is that when we're dealing with something like this, it's not something that, I mean, that we really know all the variables to be able to
Things
accurately,
change.
you know, figure out
Evolve.
how that's going to, it's because we don't know all the variables, because they put all these computers, all these different variables about wind and topography and air masses and stuff, and they come out with a forecast, hoping it to be the best. And, you know, they're better at it, but they're clearly need some work.
When we were less knowledgeable back 20 years ago with technology and calling the weather, even 30 years ago, even 40 years ago for some of you guys.
Not you.
No.
Thank you. Duh. But the thing is like, we did better and we had less snow days. And yeah, we had a rough, like you said, we live in Minnesota. It's like, you're going to get snow. People get mad. Oh my God, we just got hit with 12 inches of snow. We were supposed to get 22, but we got 12 and we're shutting down everything. And to top it all off, we decided for the safety of our kids that we're going to take it on at home and have them stay. I get irate about it.
I don't know. You know what? Thursday, I think, should have been called, right? That was a brutal day. You know, even since we didn't get 22 inches, I mean, they always gave us a range. So, you know, 10 to 12 was still within range. But that was a lot of snow happening all at once, you know, to wake up to. You know, I will give a shout out to all the plow drivers.
100%.
Yes, for sure.
My wife works with a lot of them. You know, they're there at 3 a.m. and they're, you know,
doing their
working
shifts
until, you know, 6, 7 at night. But I think we do a good job of clearing. I mean, when I lived in Atlanta, you got a quarter inch of something and the town shuts down.
Oh my God.
All the canned goods are gone off the shelves. You know,
I was in Texas and the same thing happened. They shut the entire state down for a quarter inch of snow.
yeah. So, I mean, you know, I think we're pretty good. But to your point, it's like, you know, the hockey games weren't closed. The ski hills weren't closed. You know, I mean, and all the kids checked into class and then got a lift to the ski hill
100%.
Yeah.
and snowboarded all day.
And going back to what I was saying before about the models, I think that the fact that they've gotten this much better has given them maybe the confidence or overconfidence to be able to predict several days ahead. Because in the past, we would have waited for like 12 hours or something before that,
Right.
the storm.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, for some parents, you know, that maybe don't own the business but maybe just work for the business, it's good to know like ahead of time, you know, a day or two to plan ahead for those types of situations. However, you know, when the forecast doesn't work out, everybody's like, what the hell are you guys doing? You should have waited till like 4 or 6 hours ahead, you know, to make the call like you do before. We should have waited for the call at 4 a.m. saying, school's closed tomorrow morning. You know, so I think to me, it's a combination of all those things. It's, you know, we got better at forecasting, which means that we can predict further. And when it doesn't work out, it disrupts things more than it did before. And I think that's a big part of kind of what we're experiencing. So that sucks.
So I think we know that it's not a perfect situation. Some people who would like more of a heads up, you know, you're going to get it wrong. But, you know, we are Minnesota, so maybe we can tough it out a little bit more. And you know, that's the way it goes. So let's.
I think we're conditioned to just take things from our politicians, and I think we have to question a little bit.
Okay, I don't think this was a political thing.
But
For one of us, it obviously was.
To a certain degree.
Wait a second.
To a certain degree, it was because you know, not one party or the other, but our politicians in general, whether who's in the office, to make that call sooner rather than later, I think was irresponsible to
Yeah,
to
I
Minnesota
still don't
businesses.
think that's
I wanna know
the
who-
mayor making that
I
call.
was just going to say, I
It's
wonder
the
who that.
superintendent.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, who do you think really does make that final call,
Is it the superintendent or the school board?
or is it
Because
our
I think it's the
governor?
boards are
Or
supposed
is
to
it
be
the
ones-
governor?
or
No.
is it the governor?
Was there a
Can you look
statewide?
that up?
Was there a statewide declaration? Because if there wasn't, then the governor had nothing to do with
We're
it.
just going to find out right now, Manuel. So I don't know.
I'm
I
actually
don't
going
know.
to
Do you
go
think
to
there
a
was,
higher
is what I'm
power
asking.
and ask.
The interwebs?
I think it's the superintendent that makes that call.
You might be right. You might be right.
That's who I
you
think
probably it was probably per school district, like because perhaps the northern schools did not shut down.
Right.
I don't know.
Yes, they all have
We are going to find
snowmobiles.
out. Stay tuned.
You know, when you get pissed off, you
Overtime.
just can't see clearly, and I'm pissed off.
Well, no, I just
You don't
I
see
just think
Todd pissed off very often, by the way.
back in the day.
Mess with my business, and then I'm pissed.
Well, and you
All right.
should be right.
So I,
mean,
did.
that's
I did inquire to a higher source.
Yes.
And it is the school superintendent.
okay. So I was right. Thank you.
As long as we end every episode with
Yeah.
David was right,
Yeah,
we're golden.
Just a counter. Was David
hey guys,
right or wrong?
Hey guys. Okay.
All right.
Now-
Now we're done.
Let's
No,
Next
just one
subject.
last thing. I just want to. I hate to say this, but back in the day when there was so much snow, and you pile in after school, and you're driving back, and bus driver says, "Guys, we're stuck. We need some guys to help push." The kids would get out of the
and
bus, and it wasn't the short bus. Okay, that joke was overused. Okay, but I mean, literally, the kids are out back pushing the school bus. I mean, what happened to those good old days?
You know what I used to do when it was a snowy day? We'd go and we'd get off at the first stop,
Yeah.
and then we'd skitch home on the bus.
Yes. What happened to
Oh,
those
really?
days?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of
Classic.
stuff is unheard of.
No,
you
today.
couldn't do that now.
Those are the greatest.
Let's
All
get you
right.
behind my skateboard.
So that brings us to a close. Stay tuned, and we'll be back with another topic.
Thank you. Welcome back to Degens on the Block, where we talk NFTs, crypto, and Web3, much more as well. Right now, we're going to be talking about for $400 on our crypto journey.
New segment, right?
This is a new segment.
Yeah, it's gonna be a recurring segment, I think.
Yes.
Well, we hope. So what we're doing is what we're all going to pitch in $100.
We're putting our money where our mouth is.
Love to hear that.
That's gonna be fun. It's gonna
Yeah,
be
and
fun.
so basically, we're gonna. What are the steps that we need to do this? We're gonna put $100. Well, we're gonna buy $100 worth of, say, Ethereum, right? On our MetaMask wallet. We all have our MetaMask wallet set up. In a future segment, we'll probably talk through how you set up a MetaMask wallet.
So again,
right?
for folks that don't know, we're talking about setting up a crypto wallet.
Yep.
So then we could buy some crypto tokens, some crypto coin, and see how that kind of works out as an investment. Sorry to,
But it's going to be a multi-sig wallet.
Yeah,
So,
so-
meaning we all have to.
So
we-
you can tell a bunch of yahoos right now that don't know much about investing in the crypto market. And that's why this is going to be so great, because we're going to take you step by step to actually knowing what to do. But in the beginning, I just want to say this, is
Yeah.
basically we're taking our money, like you said, putting our mouth where, shoot, yep, something like that. Cut. Okay, action. And, pretty much what you were saying is like showing the daily user how to go into and look at a market and try to make some money. And that's what we're going to see what
Yeah,
happens.
and see how easy it is to invest, and you can do it in small amounts.
I think there's just that barrier to go from taking your fiat money in your bank account, figuring out how to set up a hot
MetaMask.
wallet, MetaMask wallet, to buying the tokens. And so basically the step that we have to do is we've already all done this. We all have MetaMask wallets. Now we're going to pool our money into one wallet, which is a multi-sig wallet, so that none of us could just sign the transaction and run off with the $400. So we have a multi-sig wallet. So these are the things that we have to set up. But you're right. We're going to figure out and argue back and forth what is worth investing in. And you wanted me to start the timer, I think.
Yeah, I think that part is going to be exciting for me. Not just going through the steps and showing folks how to be able to do this, because it's not that difficult to do, but also to see now that we pick some, how do we follow them? Where are we checking that
Or
out?
why did we pick those?
Why
Yeah.
did we pick those? Exactly. And then because, who knows, we may stick with our first choices or we may go and kind of move some stuff around it. And
Yeah,
I'm excited to see that journey, see
Dabble
how it
in
goes.
there.
And to pick each other, one of your brains, and see what you guys think about each one of these coins and these ideas, because I think that in itself will be the funnest part of the journey for me.
Yes,
So I'm looking forward to it.
And we're not offering any kind of advice. This is just kind of a fun little thing that we want to show, like how easy it is to get in. It could be easy to lose your money as well.
It may be good advice as to why not to do it when they
Yeah.
watch us, potentially.
Yes. Well, this is true. But the other thing is also how you can make something that was kind of nothing into something that's a lot bigger than you've ever even anticipated. We'll see what happens and what that journey provides. But we are not going to be day trading. This is something like you're not going to get rich real quick. It's something that's still fun. Get some ideas and see if we can take that little nest egg and double it.
So what you're saying is this is for entertainment purposes only.
Yes.
100%.
We are not financial advisors.
Don't try this at home.
But we're going to try it, so you get
this-
to watch, the carnage or the excitement.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting because, my investment strategy has always been that, number one, I believe in digital assets, and number two, I don't trade. I essentially
Yes.
buy them because I know that the adoption is going to be years down the road.
Long term.
Long term. And so this is interesting because I haven't really traded per se, and I think it can be hard to trade, especially if you don't know some of the technical analysis and things. And that might be something that we do learn, like certain indicators that we're like, okay, now we need to, because we're really swing trading here. We're not day trading. We're swing
Correct.
trading. But my philosophy has always been to buy and hold. So this will be a new adventure for me as well.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about buying low and
Selling
So and you see, and what's
What I'm
funny is that
thinking.
everyone's kind of talking about their own kind of strategy.
Mm-hmm.
My strategy has always been, well, if you can make enough to cover what you put into it, and then you're playing with house's money,
Yeah.
then this is a perfect opportunity because now you're playing with somebody else's money. And in gambling, you never want to put in more than you are willing to lose, right? Because then it's more personal, right? And it can become worse for you. And
irresponsible too. Kind of
100%, 100%. But the other thing is that how many of us would love to win the Powerball, the Mega Millions, right? Everyone. How many of you bought tickets? Guarantee you, none of you.
No, I
So,
didn't.
so yeah,
Glenn did.
yeah. And again, but my point is that you can't win if you're not playing. If you don't know, you can't play. If you don't know the rules, or you think it's too hard, or I'm 58 years old and it's technology that I'm never going to learn, this is something that maybe can help you out.
Yeah. I'd like to have a little, because I'm not sure if it's a race to profits or it's a race to a loss, because I wouldn't want this segment to just be a loss and then stop the segment. But I do think we should put some parameters on it. Something like, okay, 10x, or lost 10x. So 4,000, if we get to $4,000, segment's done, we do another round. If we get instead to $40 of the 400, stop. I'll put in another $100 and go.
Yep. I think that's great. I think if we ever end up with $40 or zero, we suck and probably shouldn't do it. No, I'm kidding. I think that's a great idea. You can't make money without putting in money, right? If you want to make a little money, you start off little. But if you want to play with the big boys and make big money, you can do that too.
Well, the good news is we're not trading on margin, and that's where the big losses come.
Right.
But also the big gains. But
We've seen, hey, if you had $400 back in Bitcoin when it came out, well,
Yeah.
we probably wouldn't be here.
You're not
right
gonna,
now.
but you're not gonna see that. I mean, unless we're planning on.
No, I'm not saying that
doing
we're
the
gonna see
podcast
another-
for 5 years.
right.
I think it's gonna be
100%.
hard to see.
I think the whole point is just to kind of show how we can go out and dabble in the market and hopefully make a profit. And like you said, if we hit 10x with $4,000, yeah, stop the segment, start something new.
I think
that's a good idea.
the fun part about it will be us kind of arguing for our investment choices. I think convincing each other that this token is worth
That's
going after
That's what I'm kind of excited about
Yeah.
because you'll have some knowledge about one of them. You might know about another one. You might know about an angle totally different on either one of those two. And that's going to be great to get those
do you
ideas
have
out to kind of
split
share
it?
them.
Do you split it, or are you throwing all of it into one thing?
No,
Well, we get to decide.
We can decide.
We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think maybe the first segment we can each pick something to invest our $100 in, and then based on the performance the next week, then we can. Now that's all. Now we argue to change allocations from there. Thoughts?
I've always thought, it's only $400, but $400 to somebody else is a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. More ideas that you have put money into, maybe different results to get a different kind of.
I think we're going to end up.
scope.
I honestly think we're going to end up all wanting to learn technical analysis, because when you
have to.
trade on this short of a time frame, it doesn't matter the promise of the project. It really doesn't,
Yeah.
because it fluctuates. There's enough volatility that it really is more in daily market cycles and weekly market
But
cycles.
just real quick. For example, if you Ethereum, right? That's still a great stock. It's super great. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's going to go up. Yes, we all think it's going to go up. It's going to go back up to maybe 3,000. When is that going to happen? Well, we don't know.
Well,
But
that's what I'm
but
saying. In that
doesn't
week
mean-
time frame, you got to figure out: are we heading up or heading down? If I was Doc Hodler and wanted to buy ETH? Yes, I think ETH for the long term. 5 years from now, ETH is going to certainly be more than $1,600. So it's hard to make that shift in mindset to say, okay, now we got to figure out how are we going to swing trade this within 1 week and be profitable.
But do we have to swing trade it every week?
That's
No.
going to be my point. Is I think part of what we get to decide is how much are we going to utilize for kind of some short term kind of turnaround, and how much are we going to kind of stick around for maybe something more long term, let alone something in between the two. And that's where
I
we can
agree.
allocate some of it. Like, all right, let's get some of the big players and put some over there and just leave that. Maybe that's 100 that stays. So now we
But
got.
he's saying it's going to take years, right? I'm just saying.
Right.
If that's the
we got to
case-
give ourselves a time frame. I love that idea. I really do, because then it kind of pushes the envelope. Well, thank you guys, and
This will be a fun
tuned.
segment. This will be interesting,
Yeah.
because I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth.
yeah.
Well,
I
but
like it.
but before we close up, let's just kind of talk about what we need to do before
Sure.
our next. Because ideally, we actually start making some choices. The next time around we
week.
come
Yeah.
for next week. So
That sounds good.
let's.
Let me pull that together.
So, I mean, I think the number one thing that if you're going to follow along at home, you have to get your MetaMask wallet. So, right. So you get your MetaMask wallet, figure out how to the fiat on ramp to fund that account, and then you can do it on our own. So we all have MetaMask wallets. Now we're going to go to like Gnosis Safe and create a multi-sig wallet, and that's from there is where we're going to trade.
Okay, yeah. So we'll set that up so we have that kind of common account, so we can do that. And ideally, we will have already populated it with
Yep.
the
$400
fiat
investment.
to make sure we can kind of get started next week. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you could essentially it's your own. We would the multi-sig wallet would have a address, just like your MetaMask
Yep.
wallet has an address, and we'd all send either our USDC
Or
or
whatever,
Ethereum, or probably USDC, just because then it's stable.
Yeah.
So that it's not fluctuating between now and the time we invest it, but something like that.
No, I think that's great. So we'll have all that set up, and then next week we'll talk a little bit about why we made the choice of the one site to host all the wallets.
Yeah,
Sure.
'Cause
okay.
I think that's an important thing for people to know if they have
Sure.
this
And
type of
then-
an interest. Because again, I think part of what I'd like to see also too is that, my $100 maybe only could have gone so far, but $400 between some other people might go a little bit further than that.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is also an opportunity for a little bit of some community building
Yeah.
as well too. So I'm excited.
And
about
we would love to hear
possibility.
your ideas. We'll take your comments and ideas for different tokens and do some research on that. So if you want to, down in the comments, put a token that you'd like us to really evaluate to possibly
We'd love
buy, we'll take a look at it.
But give us a reason why. Don't just throw a token name out there and say Doge because it's fun.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
a little bit more than that, ideally,
Yeah.
because we'd love to share that information.
Well, it's a wonderful idea, and please follow us on our $400 crypto journey.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fun and good times.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome back to Degens on the Block, where we talk NFTs, crypto, and some other random topics. We've got Glenn, Manuel, David, and we're joined by a fellow cake eater, Emily McNamara. Hello, Emily. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Well, we've got a topic here that basically what we do is we take 8 minutes and we just, it's like friends talking about different topics. And this one actually happens to be, came up at our last podcast where we were talking about pulling the plug. When would we want to be around and stick around? When is it the right time to say
Enough is enough.
enough is enough?
Yeah.
So anybody want to give it a shot? Go ahead, Glenn.
Are you allowed to just pull the plug on somebody you just don't like?
Maybe.
Because that would be something as well.
But I mean, honestly, David, you kind of came up with the topic, and
Well-
what were you thinking at the time you?
Well, honestly, this is just my thought. You want to hit the timer? And,
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's
David,
go.
why don't you hold the phone in your other hand so we can see your
No.
face?
That sounds
He's
good.
hiding behind the phone.
Okay, so basically, when I was 16 years old, my father passed away, and I've had time to process it and just kind of relive it and see. And then I'm thinking to myself, would I rather had my dad die the way he did, which was a massive coronary heart attack, and I actually found him, or is it something that I wanted to know that he was going to be sick or ill for another 2 years and go through a road of which I probably I'm not even going to recognize him at the end of this road. And so which way would I have rather have, known his death? And it's for sure the first one, right? It's like I'd rather found him, one day versus having a year of misery. So I was fortunate enough to have it my way in that sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, David. That's, my father passed away from Alzheimer's, and he was sick for 10 years. And the entire time, I was just praying for a massive heart attack because, even if, I knew he was going to die. There was 10 years of planning. That's kind of the average life expectancy. But even when he did pass away, it was still, I still didn't feel like I got to say goodbye.
Right.
Even though you can plan and talk, but when someone's losing their mental capacity, they don't really have the ability to say goodbye. And so if he had died of a heart attack quickly and didn't have to suffer for 10 years, oh my God, so much better.
And for everybody, right? I mean, it's not just, you're not just talking selfishly for yourself, but for your father as well. It's like, everyone else that has to endure all that pain and watch someone deteriorate, that's a very difficult thing to process and just live through, right? So
Yeah, and I think
I say pull the plug.
Yeah, but I think the probably the biggest question is when it crosses that legal line, when someone assists someone in taking their life. I don't know. I'm a little bit of a mixed opinion. If I was really in trouble, would I want someone to help assist me? Yes, I probably
In
would.
your death.
Yes, I probably
got your
probably
back,
would.
brother.
But
I got your back.
but I mean, I guess where is that line in y'all's mind? Where do you draw that line?
Well, it's a tough one because quality of life is something we always talk about, right? Because
100%.
this is part of what this is. It's quality of life, for yourself, but also for your loved one. To Emily's point, because that's terrible for them to have to endure that, and so to be able to have the option to exercise that right to say, this is too much. I might need a hand to do this, but I think I'm done.
But even now as my age, right? 42, but I have my older sister on the line. But no, what I was going to say is that if I can't live life, if I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't shit, I can't wipe my own ass, I can't get up out of bed by myself, I don't want to put that burden on anyone else. When I have a dog, I just put down a dog. And hey, she had a little trouble walking. Okay, she can work through that. She can barely hear now. Okay, well, that just happens with age. And you know what? But she's not shitting in her bed. She's getting in and out. And she's eating. She's taking water. And then all of a sudden, she starts pooping, right? No one likes to wake up to poop. and then all of a sudden less for a dog.
Speak for yourself.
This is true. Good one.
It's another topic.
Actually, probably
Another
is.
segment. Another segment.
Well, we're gonna have to bring her in live for this one. But anyways, you know that even the dog knows. Hey, I'm not even functioning right. You got to put me down. It's time. I just say if you can't, live that quality life that you want as a person, as a human, pull the plug.
So I haven't had, knock on wood, I haven't had a lot of that kind of tragedy in my life thus far. I mean, except for my grandparents. But I'm interested in, like, you folks that have had people close to you pass away. What do you think their thoughts would be on that? Do you think it's...
Well, my dad for sure would have
Yeah.
wanted to go the way he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Emily.
definitely think my dad would have too. I mean, my dad had a lot of pride in that, especially with people that have Alzheimer's and dementia, you lose all of that. I mean, he was, like we talked about the bathroom thing. It takes all your pride away. You're going to the bathroom, in the living room. You don't know what day it is. You lose your long-term memory, then you lose your short-term. You lose your short-term memory, then you lose your long-term memory, and eventually it's just the brainstem that's operating. So you have your respiratory system, you're breathing, and you have your pulse, but everything else is gone. And you're saying and doing things that are embarrassing, inappropriate, probably humiliating for them. And then, like I said, at the end, they can just sit there with a heartbeat and be able to breathe, but that can go on for a long time. And I think that being able to, like, when people have cancer and they die, not that any disease is better or worse than, in a competition, but they can sometimes do it on their own terms. They can say, I'm done with treatment. I want to go home. I want to die at my home. Yep. And this is, I want to do it with dignity. People that have dementia and Alzheimer's, they don't have that. So it's like they're completely, they're like infants, they're like children, and they can, I just think that they would want to die knowing that they, this is who they are. Like, they have this life that they've built, all of this, and then it gets eradicated because the last thing you remember of them was they tried to take, a crap in the living room or something. Sorry, that's that's
No,
something
it's true,
my
though.
father
It's
did.
true.
Where you're like, oh my God, no, you're this wonderful, powerful executive, and now you're reduced to this.
I had a college roommate that did that.
So did
was
I.
that you, David?
But Glenn, what about you?
No, I think 100%. Anybody that wants to maintain a certain amount of dignity or anything, and see how they go out, because the last thing anybody wants to do is burden other family members with this kind of thing. There are, there's actually, it says 11 states in the U.S. that do allow assisted suicide. And there's a number of countries: Australia, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Spain, Switzerland, Canada, Colombia, Australia, and New Zealand.
Mexico's not on that list?
Not on that list.
Not yet.
No. Not unless you go against a cartel member. And
Well, I guess
is
it's pretty
a different-
easy. Just walk across the wrong neighborhood.
It's
you're
for free
shot.
there.
It's for free.
It's free. But, so that it's actually kind of interesting that the U.S. does allow.
Yeah.
There are states that allow it. So I think they've got California, Colorado, D.C., Hawaii, Maine, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon. Right? I saw a series one time, and it was all about this, where you could plan. So you had to go through certain things. It had to be a terminal prognosis. It had to be, less than 6 months or something like that.
Right.
But you could
Certain guidelines for them.
do it, and these people would just have a party. They would have a coffin in the room, and then at a certain point, you just take this cocktail,
Off the coffin, just shooting
and
shots.
basically they would do that. They lay down in the coffin, so you didn't even have to move them later.
Sounds like a party I went to one time.
But I think we talked about it last time. Would you rather know when you're going to die?
Right.
But I think you'd want to know how
Yes. Yes.
as well.
I'm curious. I know we're up. Our time is up here, but I'm curious. Have we all done our health directives, our wills, our things like that, where we've specified certain things? And if it's not legal in the state of Minnesota to have an assisted, euthanasia,
Right.
Do we state that in our wills? And
That's super important for the families. especially if you're at
The
that
burden.
point where they're not able to make those choices for whatever reason, because whatever the situation they're in, a stroke or something like that happen, to be able to have that type of a health directive is massively important. And we've I've been experiencing that recently, so making sure that kind of stuff is there and those things that are there, to ease the burden on.
Yeah, because
on
I
the
don't
ones
know
that you're leaving.
Yeah, because I'm thinking right now, is that in my health directive?
We've
Are
got
you
a
talking
living
about
will.
like a DNR, like do not resuscitate?
Right.
Or what?
I'm pretty sure
Some
I have
kind
a
of
do
a
not
living will.
resuscitate.
Yeah,
but,
those would be. Those are more
but I think
common.
to give the family peace of mind to let you go.
Well,
you know?
it's not just that, but it's to know these are my wishes.
Yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
you
That's the most important thing. These are my wishes, and ideally, your family the family's going to say they're going to comply with them, whatever those are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want like a Terry Schiavo situation. Do
You're right.
Ugh.
you remember Terry Schiavo?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I thought that she was completely brain dead. Thought to keep her there for like years.
Yeah.
That's like Karen Ann Quinlan in New Jersey was the same kind of thing. It went through like just so much court things because
Right.
somebody, one of the family members, wanted her, just in, I don't know what it is, just in case she comes out.
Yeah.
And then so it was a big long fight.
Hey, well, that was an awesome topic, and thank you, Emily, for your insights, and thanks for being here. We are Degens on the Block. We will be back with our next segment.
Welcome back to Degens on the Block. This is Manuel, and we're going to introduce another segment here. We're here with David and Todd and Glenn, and youth sports, pay to play. Does the model work? Can we do something different with it? And do we see maybe something in the future for it? And so let me kind of introduce it. So in the U.S. in general, to play a sport, you got to pay to play, right? And even getting to these higher levels and trying to get more competitive and stuff, it seems like
more.
it seems like you pay more and more and more as you go along. And so that's not exactly how things are work in other countries. And so they have a different model over there. And in the U.S., our model, it seems like it's very exclusive, specifically dealing with, your financial ability to be able to participate or not. Granted, there are some exceptions, because there's some clubs and organizations that have scholarships and things like that, but those are more not necessarily the norm as much as they are kind of like, they just sit there as somewhat of an afterthought.
So the model here might weed out people that might be naturally talented at a particular sport because that particular sport is too expensive for the family to participate in it.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, and that's how a lot of talent, gets identified. My knowledge and experiences with it is kind of with the soccer world.
Sure.
And so that's a way for kids from the smallest towns in, say, like Spain, with population of 200 people, but they're really good players, and as they move up, they suddenly, go from team to team, and as they're being asked to try out on these teams, and in some cases, they house the parents. They bring everybody along here just so the kid can have an opportunity to be a part of their little, academy. And but we have his rights in the meantime as that goes on. And so there's a way that he's participating, getting better, and doing this. They're not paying anything for it. As a matter of fact, in some cases, they're being supported too.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's a little bit the opposite, isn't it, David?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think it's flawed. Our system here is kind of flawed, right? It's and it shows to the demographics of the kids that can actually afford those sports. But when you talk about inner city kids and getting into hockey, or inner city kids getting into swimming, they aren't actually being taught that, and it just excludes them from playing golf, right? How many inner city kids are you actually seeing that are in there playing golf and going to the country clubs? And so they're not getting that exposure. And so I think that if every child had the same opportunity to go and try out and actually practice something that they think that they can be good at, we'd get a lot more talented kids, and it'd be spread out throughout more of a equal playing field.
So you're essentially saying we're missing out on
A lot.
talent.
Oh, a bunch of talent.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the flip side would be, what if you're not super talented and you want to play a sport? So that's where the pay to play is not bad. There's plenty of hockey players in the Edina Association that are not good hockey players, but their parents pay a little bit because they know the kid likes the sport. He might not be great. And I've coached a lot of those kids over time, right? Where they're, if it was left to a club league, they would never be chosen
Right.
to participate.
But for some of those kids that maybe are good enough to be chosen by some of those teams, the burden on them to be able to participate financially is massive. And so maybe some of those kids don't develop, and you lose that talent because that opportunity to play at a higher level doesn't exist because of the constraints there. So that's, I think, a little bit more where the this other model may have, maybe a little bit better from that standpoint, to be able to, as a way to kind of feed different clubs, these types of talented players that can be developed.
Yeah.
And again, they're being developed by being exposed to kind of a higher level of competition.
But I'm sure you guys can agree that, children are going to peak at different times, right? It could be, 90% of all kids are peaking when they're 15, 16 years old, but this one's just kind of a late bloomer, and all of a sudden, when he's 17, 18 years old, he's doing things that are far superior than the other kids. He caught up and surpassed. So you just never know, right? You want to be able to give that opportunity and keep it going. And, if you get kids that want to come back and play, they should be able to play regardless. Fees or no fees.
I mean, what I do like is kind of the partnership between the club and the businesses, because obviously the club in Europe probably has to take in sponsors that will pay the club, and that money ticket money or that kind of thing provides for the uniforms and
they have another source of revenue, which is players that they develop, and if they're under contract and they want to get signed by somebody else, they have to buy that contract out.
Okay.
And so that costs money. There's a buyout clause with most of their with most of their contracts. And so that buyout clause has to be met, or an agreement has to be arrived at for that to happen. And that money goes back into the club. And what do they use that for? The good clubs are probably using it to maybe create partnerships with the local city that they're in, where they can say, hey, no, kids can play rec soccer for free if they just sign up over here. And in the meantime, they have people kind of scouting and looking. Do you want to come join in with this club? Do you want to come join in with this other club? A lot of, some of the big soccer clubs, they have academies scattered throughout the world.
Yeah.
There's some in Asia, in some Asian countries. There's some in some African countries. We have some in the U.S. too, from different soccer clubs from around the world.
And use that as a feeder program to get those talented kids to come
to
on
get them
board.
into their system. And in those types of clubs, I think you have a better chance of being able to participate at either a reduced fee or maybe a shared fee, maybe in some cases even no fee.
How many of the people, like let's say it's Benilde or Shattuck, like how many of the good hockey players are paying to go there? I mean, we already kind of have a system.
Quite a few.
I guess it would depend on, I think every program may be different. Like Shattuck, to go to Shattuck, it's like paying for a college.
Yeah.
And
but I think if you're a prospect or you have talent, they're going to make concessions, right?
Sure.
So,
100%. Yes. And they
So, I mean,
they probably do now, right?
Yeah.
There's scholarships, there's financial aid. If they think you're the cream of the crop, they're bringing you on board. They're lucky to have you. Yes, they're going to find a way.
What I liked, what we started to talk about before we were officially talking about this, was the idea of creating these NFTs based on a kid, right? That could be parsed out to help pay for stuff, right?
Yeah, I think when you're talking contracts and things like that, NFTs fit right in there. Like, so you have a player that has an NFT and their contract is connected to that NFT. Agents are going to take and to put that lawyers to put that contract together, to put, to have the agent talk to another club, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of money being taken out of the system that's not given to the talent.
Absolutely, or let alone where the talent came from.
Right.
So this is part of what also I think happens in soccer. There's supposed to be like a trickle down,
like a
model.
Cascade of royalties. Basically.
So when
when
there's a transfer going on, so that fee, a certain percentage of it is supposed to trickle down all the way to the club that formed that person. Yeah. So if it's like a club,
does that actually happen?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And they're able to keep track. It just seems like that's such a natural place for blockchain to exist.
And I think that would be it has some massive application, because you know who you would cut out of that whole equation? These people that charge for, like, they charge the club separate than whatever the transfer fee is.
Yeah.
Some of these agents charge them like 20%
Yeah.
of the transfer fee. You're to be able to transfer clubs, it's $100 million what it's going to charge you. And since I'm agent guy, I get 20% of that you're paying on top of the 100 that you got to pay between the
Yeah,
clubs.
I mean the clubs would love it that
They
they're
would be
saving.
great.
Yeah.
We just got to do a quick from wallet to
Yeah.
wallet. Let's go.
Yeah.
They'd sign it in a minute. And you know who would get a lot more of that money? Not just the players themselves into their pocket,
but
the
all the
trickle down.
cascade of clubs that
If the contract
Yeah.
is set up that way,
Yeah.
Well,
just like an NFT is when it transfers, a certain, the developers
The royalty.
get a certain
Well,
Yeah.
they're-
Benefits.
And I don't know
benefits?
how to work here, right? Because there's so many different rules and regulations with NCAA and going down, right?
See, in the U.S., this is difficult to do
No, right.
because of NCAA and all these other types
Yeah.
of, kind of very controlling type of organizations that
But
are
at the
all over the sports.
But at the same time, I think it's kind of cool. If you're almost hedging on some athlete, like in high school, if you're able to get an NFT of the top 50 the hottest, biggest basketball players that are had best years of their life, and you're able to get an NFT from one of them, and they have a collection of 1,000, right? And you're hedging that when the contract is signed, if it's signed, right, that NFT just goes through the roof,
Yeah.
right? And then that's a
shit,
percentage.
I'd be scared as hell if I was an agent, and if I was an agent, I would create this
yes,
thing
right now,
to do this to save my ass.
because you can hit them in
Because
high school.
agents are going to be just
Obsolete.
wiped out.
They would be nothing. And what would happen is that in between every time, you get a new contract, your old contract would be burnt. And then maybe the NFTs that are associated with it will also be burnt with it. And guess what? There might be a trickle down in terms of money effect to do that. Then a new contract would have to be drawn out with the new terms and with also the same old trickle down kind of happening with another block kind of added to that if you're going to a higher level team.
Yeah.
And this
So
would
each-
actually
each-
secure the athlete's contract much more than having a couple lawyers behind the door where you're talking about how much money that they're going to take away from it.
What I like is like if you open it up to people.
Yes.
Like I think this athlete is a special athlete. I'm going to
High school,
invest
yes.
in that athlete.
You could. The only thing that it would do here in the U.S., it would probably eliminate your chances of playing in the NCAA, depending on how things are set up right
let's,
now.
let's assume that's not in there. But like,
but it's maybe like right now they have these. You can sell your rights right now in the NCAA.
Yeah. Right.
So maybe it doesn't apply anymore.
Because that's what I was going to say. I think it's coming around because all these players have been, used for the time they were.
But it's only been since
geez.
college on forward.
what I think if you got to that model in the U.S. where you can do this kind of investing in young talent, it's going to start taking politics out. My buddy's dad is the coach of Benilde hockey, and it's because that kind of thing, where it's going to focus on actual talent because you're going to be voting with every penny, every piece of Ethereum that you give this kid to their NFT.
Yep.
You're now not judging on who's.
But the other thing is, I mean, you take it a step even further, right? You guys we're talking about athletes in the U.S., but think about third world countries, right? Like Nigeria. Like getting an athlete that you think is going to be the next Olympic star because he runs and he's in high school, and you back that shit up, right? I mean, you can have it work as a sponsor type thing for him. But the other thing is like, you just never know. But there's going to be giving opportunities to a lot of these athletes across the board, and it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to stop at athletes.
So here's a question: What do you own? So the NFT would be what? Because it's not just a piece of art. It's
you
not
would
something.
own a percentage, say, like of the transaction or of the contract that their next contract that they're going to sign.
So
right?
Yeah,
So would they,
athlete-wise, yes.
if they created 1,000, all these people bought in.
This is what
you'd
I would
have nothing.
This is
then.
what I would do if I was an agent and I was going to, if I knew as an agent my job is gone in 20 years, I would set up a company that sold the NFT for 20%, what my normal fee was, sold the NFT for 20%. And so I'm going to take a tiny royalty on that, but I'm selling these NFTs because I'm representing this kid. Now, that 20% is instead of coming directly to the agent, it's because now if I set up that marketplace, 90% of the agents are gone. I can take a much, much smaller piece of that 20% that I would normally come all to me, and that goes back to the clubs and the athlete. But you're selling, let's use a Minnesota athlete. What's the top? Jackson Nevers, the top player on Edina. I'm going to buy, there's going to be 100 NFTs of Jackson Nevers. And that's going to represent 20% of his contracts going in the future. So now
You're betting that he is going to get a contract. He may not,
yeah,
but
he may not. But I'm just saying, like, if you, right? So, so now, if I'm kind of putting this all together in my head, agents are going to be gone. That 20% is represented by the NFTs, and now that can go mostly to the athlete and to the investors that believe in that athlete.
Right.
I just think.
But if you create that marketplace, you're right. You're able to take that percentage and just shrink it down.
Down.
And make, a ton of money.
You make yourself useful by each contract has to be redone again. So you got to reissue. You got to burn the old NFTs.
Mm-hmm. I think there's different ways to do it. Yeah, sure.
Because then you would be the one doing that, and there'd be a fee to redo that contract and reset up those new NFTs, right?
So it would probably you'd have to step up. An NFT when they were 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
Would be a small pay-in.
Yes.
Right.
An NFT.
But it's going to be the rarest.
In college, suddenly would then, but if you're burning them, it might be, $300 per NFT or whatever when they get to college.
Yeah.
It may be, you just keep
3,000.
3,000
Yeah.
going,
But this model wouldn't be good for Doc Hodel because you'd have to burn every single time. You'd have to move from one to the other, but you'd get reissued a new one with the same percentages, but it's based on a bigger number.
Yeah.
So wait, if you bought one early,
but would you? But the thing is, would you have to burn them?
Yeah.
You may not have to burn these.
Right.
Well, I was thinking that you would burn them, and then as part of the new contract, the trickle down of people that get us whatever percentage is based on who owned at that point, maybe those NFTs.
I think that could be written into the smart contract without having to burn.
Would you automatically get
If that's
another,
possible,
Yeah.
the burning would be so you give you as the agent some utility to do something. So you'd have to burn.
Well,
and
an agent,
redo the
honestly, an agent
contracts.
is going to be contacting the clubs. They're going to be doing a lot of PR stuff. So they're just not taking the big fees, I guess.
Well,
Right.
unless their fees are written into the contract, the smart contract.
I think this is a really fascinating thing because there's a lot of different uses for NFTs, and all those places where, where there's friction, blockchain can help. And there's friction when it comes to an agent taking 20% of a young athlete's income. And I don't know. I just think it's really fascinating. Thank you, Manuel, for the topic.
Yeah, that was a great topic.
That was a good conversation, and it's one of those. I think we have more questions now than when we started.
I think you're right.
It's going to be
Absolutely.
evolving for
So
quite
that's
a long time.
and that's good. That
And
was
it's
good
funny
one.
because we're talking about it now and watch it happen literally in like a year or
In a
2
few
years.
months,
All of a sudden,
yeah.
you start seeing some of these agents disappearing.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they're scared shitless right now.
I
actually.
know I would be.
Yeah.
Well, either that or they got to be thinking of creating their own marketplace,
Right.
to be able to host all these things.
Do something.
All right, Degens on the block. Thanks for tuning in and wrapping up that topic on youth sports pay for play. That was a really interesting topic.
Great
I think there's a lot of food for thought, and we might have to readdress that one again. So,
We may have more questions than answers
Yeah.
at this point.
yep.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Thanks for joining us to Degens on the Block. We're going to wrap this one up. Thanks for being here for Manny, Glenn, and David. We are Degens on the Block. Please join us next time. Look for the links in the description. Cheers.